Imagine a technology so powerful it could fundamentally reshape, well, almost everything, not just economies and militaries,
Yeah.
but how people actually move around the entire planet.
Yeah, it sounds like sci-fi, doesn't it?
It really does. But our deep dive today suggests this isn't science fiction. It's the unfolding reality of artificial intelligence. We're talking about the absolute cutting edge here, frontier AI.
Exactly. And our focus really is this compelling hypothesis that's emerging. The United States potentially gaining a monopoly over this frontier AI and what that means globally.
Right. So this deep dive, it's your shortcut to understanding the ripple effects, short, medium, long term. How this could shake up geopolitics, global economics, and even human migration patterns. We've dug into the sources, pulled out the key insights, the surprising facts, really, to get you up to speed on what feels like a really pivotal moment.
And some of those connections are genuinely surprising. You know, how AI's influence could stretch from who holds global power right down to the systems deciding who can cross a border. It's pretty vast.
Okay, so let's unpack that. How is this potential U.S. AI monopoly actually being constructed? Our sources point to three core pillars building this digital leviathan, as they call it.
Yeah, three main drivers.
First one, let's talk money. The financial side. When you look at the investment behind AI development, the U.S. innovation engine is just dominant. It's undeniable.
Absolutely.
In 2023, private investment in U.S.-based AI firms hit, what, $67.2 billion?
$67.2 million. Yeah.
Which sounds huge on its own, but compared to China, it's nearly 9 times the capital Chinese firms raised.
It's a staggering difference. And these aren't just abstract numbers, right? This kind of money directly fuels the creation of the most advanced AI models.
Like the really big ones we hear about.
Exactly. Think about the compute costs. Training OpenAI's GPT-4 costs something like $78 million.
$78 million, wow.
And Google's Gemini Ultra estimates are around $191 million, just for the compute power needed for training.
That's incredible. It creates this enormous barrier to entry, doesn't it?
A formidable one, yeah. Very few players globally can even afford to compete at that frontier level.
And you see it in the output. In 2023, U.S. institutions put out 61 notable AI models. The EU, 21. China, 15.
Big difference.
It leads to this intense concentration, right?
Yeah.
A few American tech giants, plus some heavily funded startups, they basically dominate the field.
And zooming out slightly, this isn't just about software and investment. It's underpinned by a really strategic push on the hardware front, securing the physical foundation.
You mean semiconductors, chips.
Precisely. The U.S. already leads in chip design, but then you have the CJPS and Science Act from 2022 that's pouring, what, $52.7 billion in federal subsidies?
$52.7 billion. Yeah.
Specifically to bring semiconductor manufacturing back to the U.S., reshoring it. It's about controlling the whole stack.
So the bottom line for you listening, the research suggests a future where AI leadership isn't just in a few companies, but in a few American corporate superpowers. And they could wield huge geopolitical influence because of it.
A new kind of power player on the world stage?
But it's not just market forces at play here. There's a second pillar, government policy, a deliberate framework.
Right. The U.S. government isn't just a bystander.
Our sources show they're actively steering this with a strategy called America's AI Action Plan.
Yeah.
Rolled out in 2025, apparently.
Yeah, and it's built around three core ideas: accelerating AI innovation, building the actual American AI infrastructure, and then leading in international AI diplomacy and security.
It's a full strategy.
A very coherent roadmap. It lists over 90 specific federal policy actions. The whole point is to clear domestic hurdles and project U.S. influence abroad.
And this is where it gets, well, really interesting according to the sources. The plan explicitly talks about removing onerous regulation.
Cutting red tape.
And it even suggests withholding federal funds from states if they enact what the plan deems burdensome AI rules.
That's a strong federal push.
And it goes further. It treats AI infrastructure, think massive data centers, semiconductor fabs, as national security priorities.
Right. Critical infrastructure.
Which means streamlined permits, potentially even exemptions from major environmental regulations, Clean Air, Clean Water Acts, things like that.
That's significant. And it raises questions, doesn't it, about what values get baked into this whole approach.
Well, the plan itself says it wants AI systems to be free of ideological bias and not designed for socially engineered agendas.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
It means, for instance, directing NIST the National Institute of Standards and Technology, to revise its AI risk management framework,
How so?
to remove references to things like diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI, but also misinformation and climate change.
Wow. So actively removing those considerations from the risk framework.
That's what the sources indicate, and the plan also includes exporting the entire U.S. AI tech stack to allies.
Ah, so not just keeping it domestic.
No, it's a deliberate strategy. Create a global hub-and-spoke system. U.S. at the center, allies connected through its technology.
Ensures everyone's using compatible tech.
Exactly. Seamless interoperability. But it creates deep, long-lasting technological dependence on the U.S.
A double-edged sword for allies, perhaps.
Which brings us to the third pillar, and it's a bit of a paradox, a strategic tension.
Okay.
It's about talent. The engine driving U.S. AI leadership relies heavily on foreign talent.
Right, we hear about this a lot.
But national immigration policies often make it hard for that talent to get in or stay.
Yeah, the mismatch there is striking.
The numbers are quite something. 77% of top U.S. AI companies were founded or co-founded by first- or second-generation immigrants.
77%, that's huge. And the dependency goes even deeper. Look at top AI researchers defined by publications at the big NeurIPS conference in 2022.
Okay, the really top-tier scientists.
Nearly half, 47%, were from China. The U.S. share, just 18%.
So the U.S. relies on global talent,
Yeah.
especially from places like China, but the system makes it difficult.
Exactly. Think about the H-1B visa lottery. The odds have gotten incredibly low, like 1 in 7 sometimes. That creates huge uncertainty.
And that uncertainty, it pushes people away, doesn't it?
It does. Countries like Canada, the UK, Australia, they set up these streamlined, points-based visa systems. They're actively recruiting this talent.
And succeeding.
Seems so. Canada apparently attracted nearly 40,000 foreign-born grads from U.S. universities between 2017 and 2021 alone. And China's working hard to keep its researchers home, too.
So the sources suggest this situation, this strategic incoherence,
Yeah.
it can't last if the U.S. wants that monopoly.
Right. Something has to give. The prediction is a radical rethinking of immigration, specifically for AI.
Right.
A new, maybe depoliticized AI elite visa track. No numerical caps, a clear, fast path to permanent residency, green cards, basically.
An open door, but only for a select few.
Essentially, yes. Creating a very stark, two-tiered global mobility system. Preferential treatment for AI brains.
Okay, so those are the pillars. The money, the policy, and this talent paradox potentially leading to a new immigration approach. Now, if this U.S. AI monopoly really solidifies, what are the consequences? What does it mean for the rest of the world?
The sources paint a picture of, well, a major global reordering across geopolitics, economics, even global health.
Let's start with geopolitics. The sources talk about a new bipolarity. What does that look like?
It's not like the old Cold War. It's described as technologically asymmetric bipolarity. One pole, the U.S., has this overwhelming AI advantage.
And the other pole, China.
China would still be a major power, obviously, but its own AI ambitions, like their next-generation AI development plan, would be seriously hampered, mainly by lack of access to those cutting-edge semiconductors we talked about.
Controlled by the U.S. or its close allies.
Precisely. Meanwhile, you've got the European Union. They're focused on regulation, the AI Act, aiming for ethical leadership.
Which sounds good.
But in this scenario, they become largely disconnected from actual frontier AI production. They end up being rule takers because they lack the industrial clout, setting rules for tech they don't build.
And for existing U.S. allies, Japan, South Korea, UK, etc.
A hub-and-spoke model gets locked in. Exporting the full U.S. AI stack ensures everyone works together seamlessly.
But makes them incredibly dependent technologically.
During dependency. Yeah.
What about other significant players? India, the UK specifically.
The thinking is they'd find niches. They'd recalibrate to become specialized hubs within the U.S.-led system. Maybe India focuses on custom AI solutions, the U.K. on AI governance or safety research. Complementary roles, not direct competitors at the frontier.
So the practical takeaway for, say, countries in the global south?
They face a really stark choice, essentially picking a technological sphere of influence to align with, either the U.S.-led one or, well, a potentially much less advanced alternative.
Okay, that's the geopolitical shift. What about the economy? The sources mention a great divergence.
Yeah, this is a big one. AI is projected to add enormous value to the global economy, maybe $13 trillion.
$13 trillion.
Huge potential. But under a U.S. monopoly scenario, those gains wouldn't be spread evenly. Far from it. They'd be disproportionately captured by the United States.
Leading to divergence.
A dramatic and accelerating divergence in wealth between nations. It could actually reverse decades of economic convergence where poorer countries were slowly catching up.
Why would the gap widen so much?
Well, there's the preparedness gap we touched on. The U.S. has the investment, the infrastructure. Developing countries face huge hurdles. Think about basic internet access still only 27% in low-income countries.
27%. Wow.
And broadband costs can eat up nearly a third of the average income in some places. How can they compete in an AI-driven economy?
And there's another factor, isn't there? Something about comparative advantage.
Yes, this is crucial. For decades, many developing economies grew based on their advantage in low-cost labor. Manufacturing, call centers, BPO.
Right.
AI-driven automation threatens to erode that advantage rapidly. It makes reshoring or friendshoring those jobs back to developed countries much more feasible.
So the very thing that powered their growth gets undermined.
Exactly. The IMF research cited suggests this could cause a severe, maybe even permanent, terms of trade shock. The value of unskilled or semi-skilled labor just plummets globally.
Breaking that traditional ladder of economic development.
Potentially, leading to stagnation, maybe political instability in affected regions. It's a serious concern.
Okay, geopolitics, economics, and then there's global health. You said this was a double-edged sword.
It really is. On one hand, AI has revolutionary potential in healthcare, better diagnostics, faster drug discovery, maybe helping overcome that huge global shortage of healthcare workers.
The promise is enormous.
Absolutely. But the peril lies in the data. How reliable are these AI systems for everyone?
Because the data they're trained on isn't representative.
Exactly. Current clinical AI development is dominated by the global north. The datasets are often, as the sources say, notoriously homogeneous, mostly white, Western, often male populations.
So an AI trained to spot skin cancer on light skin might completely miss it on dark skin.
That's a classic tragic example. And if the U.S. has a monopoly, these biased systems, trained on skewed data, could get exported and hard-coded into health systems worldwide.
Leading to systematic errors, misdiagnoses, real patient harm on a global scale.
Yes. And beyond the bias, a monopoly concentrates control. These powerful health AI tools would be owned by a few U.S. corporations.
Meaning developing countries might have to pay huge licensing fees.
Potentially exorbitant fees, yeah. The sources use strong language here, warning of a potential new form of biological colonialism.
Biological colonialism.
Where the health, the very longevity of people in poor nations could be dictated by algorithms controlled from overseas, creating a global hierarchy based on life itself. It's a profound ethical challenge.
Wow. Okay, so from geopolitics and economics down to individual health outcomes, the potential impacts are vast.
Let's shift focus now to people, to human movement. How would a U.S. AI monopoly reshape global migration?
Radically, according to the sources, in several key ways.
The first mechanism described sounds dramatic, the Great Brain Vortex. Yeah, it's framed as potentially the single most powerful pull factor in modern history.
Pull factor, meaning attracting people.
Exactly. If the U.S. becomes the undisputed sole hub for frontier AI research, development, commercialization, it becomes the only logical destination for any ambitious AI researcher, engineer, or entrepreneur anywhere in the world.
They'd have to go there to be at the center of things.
Precisely. And this reality, the sources argue, would force that change in U.S. immigration policy we discussed, the creation of that dedicated AI elite visa.
The fast track for AI talent.
Right. A rapid, predictable path to a green card. Basically an open door for the world's most sought-after AI minds.
And presumably huge salaries and incentives pulling them in, too.
Immense economic incentives, yeah. Exceptionally high salaries. This would likely reverse recent trends of talent dispersing more globally. It would pull talent back to the U.S.
Potentially hollowing out R&D ecosystems elsewhere.
That's the risk. And creating these hyper-innovative, but maybe somewhat socially isolated AI hubs within the U.S.?
So, for you listening, the implication is the best way to migrate to the world's leading power might shift. It might not just be about degrees or family anymore, but about having demonstrable AI skills.
It could become the key credential for upward global mobility.
Okay, so that's the pull for the elite. But there's a flip side, right? A push factor.
Yes, displacement and disruption. While the top talent is pulled towards the U.S., millions of others could be pushed out of their jobs by AI automation globally.
We hear estimates like the Goldman Sachs report, generative AI potentially impacting 300 million full-time jobs worldwide.
300 million. And the crucial point here is the geographic mismatch.
Meaning?
Job destruction happens everywhere, globally. But the new high-skilled AI jobs replacing them, they're overwhelmingly concentrated in the US, in those AI hubs.
So people lose jobs in one place, but the new jobs are somewhere else entirely and require different skills.
Exactly. And the impact would be particularly severe in developing economies, especially those reliant on things like business process outsourcing BPO, call centers, data entry.
Tasks that are quite vulnerable to automation.
Very much so. This could create a new kind of economic migrant. Not the traditional unskilled laborer, but the de-skilled white-collar worker.
Someone whose office skills, maybe years of experience in customer service or data processing, are suddenly made redundant by an algorithm.
Precisely. Their skills are devalued almost overnight.
Where would these displaced workers go?
That's a huge question. The sources suggest it might redirect global migration flows. Instead of just south to north migration, you might see intensified south-south migration, people moving between developing economies, seeking opportunities in regions perhaps less rapidly automated, new corridors of movement.
Okay, so a brain vortex pulling talent in, automation pushing others out. There's a third mechanism mentioned, and it sounds, frankly, a bit dystopian: the algorithmic gatekeeper.
Yes, this relates to how borders themselves are managed. As technology plays a bigger role in migration control, a US AI monopoly could lead to a standardized global algorithmic border.
Meaning AI systems making decisions about who gets to move.
Essentially, yes. Systems for automating visa applications, doing predictive risk assessments on travelers. These critical tools would likely be designed and supplied by American companies under this monopoly scenario.
And if U.S. companies design them,
Then the inherent biases in their data and the policy priorities of the U.S. get encoded into the very algorithms deciding who can cross borders worldwide.
like the healthcare bias example, but applied to movement.
Exactly. Remember the black box problem. It's hard to know why an AI makes a certain decision.
So for you trying to navigate this system, an algorithm trained mainly on data from one group could systematically misjudge people from other groups, leading to discrimination.
That's the major concern. Discriminatory outcomes baked into the system. And how do you appeal? How do you challenge a decision made by an opaque proprietary algorithm?
It creates a massive power imbalance.
A severe imbalance. It challenges basic ideas of due process, fundamental rights. The sources warn this represents an unprecedented level of control over global human movement.
Turning migration from a complex human phenomenon into just another variable optimized by a U.S.-controlled system.
That's the potential endpoint described.
All right, this is a lot to take in. The sources don't just paint this picture, though. They also offer forecasts and potential strategies, right?
Yes, they look ahead short, medium, long term, and suggest ways different actors might navigate this future.
Okay, let's break down the forecast first. Short term, like the next 1-3 years.
High confidence here, according to the sources. We'd see consolidation. That US AI action plan gets implemented aggressively. You'd physically see more data centers, more chip fabs being built in the US.
And brain vortex.
It starts spinning up noticeably. Those fast-track visas for AI talent would likely appear. And unfortunately, we'd probably start seeing the first clear signs of AI-driven job displacement in certain sectors.
Okay, that's the near future, medium term, say 3-10 years out.
Medium confidence on this projection. Here, the U.S. AI monopoly is basically functionally established. That great divergence in economic fortunes becomes really stark. The U.S. sees a big productivity boom, while many developing economies stagnate.
And migration.
That two-tiered system, elite visas, and algorithmic borders for everyone else becomes entrenched. Algorithmic border controls become widespread.
And long term, 10 years or more.
This is much more speculative, lower confidence. The stability of this AI unipolarity gets tested. Maybe counter-coalitions form to challenge U.S. dominance. Maybe there are disruptive black swan innovations, completely unexpected breakthroughs.
Or downsides.
Big potential downsides. The global economic imbalance could lead to state failures. The migration system could be in constant crisis, with mass movements challenging the algorithmic borders.
And the sources also mention existential risk in the long term.
Yes, things like catastrophic AI accidents, misuse of powerful AI by rogue states or groups, maybe even losing human control over advanced AI systems. The potential for societal collapse or transformation, the stakes get very high.
Okay, given that complex and frankly somewhat worrying forecast, what about strategies? What can different players do? For the U.S. itself.
The recommendation is responsible hegemony. Since it holds the power, use it for global good. tackle climate change, pandemics, invest in digital and educational infrastructure in the global south to help bridge the gap. And importantly, champion a genuinely international framework for AI ethics and safety, not just a US-centric one.
What about allies and other powers? EU, UK, India, Japan.
Their suggested strategy is specialized interdependence. Don't try to beat the US at the frontier AI game directly. Instead, focus on becoming world leaders in specific complementary areas.
Like the examples before, EU in AI auditing, UK in safety, India in culturally specific AI.
Exactly. Find your niche, become indispensable in that area, and also form coalitions to negotiate collectively with the US rather than dealing one-on-one from a weaker position.
And for developing nations facing that economic divergence and job displacement.
The advice is a radical focus on human capital. Shift education away from skills AI replaces towards skills. AI complements critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence.
Adapt the workforce.
Adapt the future workforce. And advocate strongly for a fair global AI structure. Things like global AI for development funds. And resist having biased algorithmic border systems imposed on them. Fight for digital rights.
Finally, what about international organizations? The UN, World Bank, OECD.
Their role becomes even more critical as conveners for a new social contract. They need to lead the global conversation on tackling the systemic consequences of the AI monopoly, addressing digital human rights, building new international norms for this entirely new era.
So to sum up, what we've explored today really shows that this idea of a US AI monopoly isn't just some far-off possibility. It seems to be an unfolding reality with profound implications for, well, everything: geopolitics, economies, individual lives, including yours.
Absolutely. This deep dive really highlights how interconnected it all is, from the sheer cost of training one AI model all the way to who gets to move across a border and why. It underscores the huge choices that nations and individuals are going to face.
And maybe one final thought to leave people with. The sources hint that AI itself, its very nature being borderless, potentially self-improving, could introduce wildcards. Systemic risks, those black swan events that might challenge any monopoly's control in the long run.
Right. What if AI systems become more autonomous? Or what if a truly powerful open source AI movement emerges and decentralizes everything?
What does that do to our ideas of power, control, even what it means to be human? This technological leviathan we're building, it could lead to unprecedented progress, or it could deepen inequality and conflict immensely. The trajectory isn't fully set. So the question for you is, what choices do you think we need to make collectively to shape where this goes?